Welcome to another DragonLance Saga review episode. It is me, Sham Floorgreen, the 30th. My name is Adam, and today I'm going to give you my review of The Companions by Tina Daniell. I would like to take a moment and thank the DL Saga members and invite you to consider becoming a member by visiting the link in the description below. You can even pick up DragonLance given materials using my affiliate links. Now, this is the 40th anniversary of Dragonlance, so I would like to invite you to join in that celebration by submitting a video, a piece of art, or a short writing, or maybe even a long writing about Dragonlance to info@dlsaga.com. Now, it will be added to the dlsaga.com/40th-anniversary celebration landing page with all of the other contributors. So, yeah, why not be a part of Dragonlance for 40th anniversary? It's great. Good times. Noodle salad. All right. So this is my perspective only. If yours differs, that's all right. Leave it in the live chat if you happen to be joining live, or put it in the comments if you're watching this after it has not been live, I guess. I don't know. I've had like the longest day today, so please bear with me. Sean, thanks for tuning in. One of your favorite books of the entire series. All right. There's a lot happening in this book that I distill down to not a lot. Chris, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. All right. So the way these work is I have a pre-written review, which I write basically 100 pages at a time. And then I'm going to give you that. You'll see how my thoughts and observations change throughout the course of the review. And then we'll just riff. If you have thoughts about the characters or the situations or anything Dragonlance related, don't ask shoe sizes or, my favorite hat styles. If you have anything Dragonlance related, throw it up in the chat. And then after I'm done with the review, we'll just riff on it for a little bit and we'll have a little bit of fun. All right, that's it. So let's get into it. What a strange beginning to this novel. We jump right into the thick of it in mid-adventure as Tasslehoff, Caramon, and Sturm are sailing to Abanasinia from southern Aragoth after having purchased some crushed jalap wort from we all know what that is, right? From a minotaur herbalist named Argots. We later learn that this minotaur was on his way out of town for some reason and was killed before he could leave the island. But as the companions are sailing back to mainland on the Venora, a mid-sized sloop, Caramon is drinking and swapping stories with the sailors. Sturm is stereotypically brooding mysteriously on deck, and Taz is writing a letter to Raistlin. He had been given a magic bottle by someone that he hopes to send a letter to Raistlin in. As he describes the events that has transpired, he notices a massive storm quickly gathering and coming straight for them. Sturm goes to find Caramon, who is unconscious on deck when the storm hits. Sailors are actually abandoning ship as lightning strikes the mast, and then Sturm is knocked out by the captain. Taz hurries and finishes the letter, grabs his pouches, then looks for his companions, only to find Captain Murloc, who knocks him out also, and ties them all to the mast before diving overboard himself. This is very odd behavior for sailors and the captain. And then the captain witnesses the ship become enveloped by a storm, lifted up into the air, and then disappears. Undeterred, he starts swimming for shore, but is attacked by a swarm of bees in the middle of the ocean and killed. His body is washed up on shore. Now, just from every cartoon I have ever seen in my entire life, anytime you're near any body of water, always have like a little stick, like a reed or something that you can put in your mouth and duck under the water snorkel-like, because bees can't swim. So if you're being attacked by bees and you're in a large body of water, dive down. That's all you gotta do. They can't swim. All right. Stupidest death ever. So the magic bottle holding Taz's note to Raistlin found its way to the shore because it's magical. And it's found by a wandering merchant who delivers it to Raistlin. Raistlin then collects Tanis and Flint and meets them at Crystal Mirror Lake, where they see a magical miniature image of Tasslehoff reading his story of the purchase of the spell components and the storm that they're sailing into. So Raistlin is sure, for absolutely no reason, that they are in all grave danger, as they haven't returned home yet. He believes that they must travel to the Bloodsea of Istar to find them. How does Raistlin know where they are? I don't know. He also believes that there's a portal that can take them from Abanasinia to Ogrebond because his master Moroth conveniently told him. While this is all too convenient for anything but a home game session of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, I guess I'm here for it. Flint and Tanis agree to go, and they meet an ogress oracle trading the magical bottle for an amulet of darkness. That's the actual name of the amulet that they need to teleport from a mountaintop, which they have to leap off of, all the way to a locked room in Ogrebond's keep. Okay, so he gets the amulet of darkness. It's needed to open this Holdrafolk portal to Ogrebond. I can't help but wonder if the leader of the Ogrebond keep ever found out that there was a Holdrafolk portal. He would probably use it to invade Solace. So it's probably a good thing that he doesn't know about this portal. But this other ogress oracle does. It's a well-kept secret, except from, like, everyone in this story. Anyway, they scale a massive mountain to its peak, cast the spell, and then leap off the mountain, hoping that there's going to be a portal that catches them or teleports them or whisks them away in some magical form. Now, how does a less than 3rd level mage cast this massive teleport spell? Doesn't matter. Don't think about it. How did any of them know that they have to go to the Bloodsea of Istar at all? Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Don't think about it. So, just another Tuesday in Krynn. Meanwhile, Raistlin sends a kender with a letter to Kitiara about the whole affair. She's been staying with her uncle Nelthus, who is first introduced in this novel, who is clearly working for agents of the Dark Queen in some capacity. She helps him in a hunt, and we see other suitors fighting over her. Very Kitiara. But the point is that Nelthus knows a way to get Kitiara to the Bloodsea Isles quickly. Boy, wouldn't it have been convenient for the Heroes of the Lands to know about all these portals just like popping off all the place? Or the Queen of Darkness to have known about them. I mean, if you could just teleport right to the Bloodsea of the Blood Isles, then why can't the Minotaur Kingdom teleport their entire army from the Blood Isles? And then suddenly, and magically, they're in the middle of mainland Solamnia. And they can invade all of Solamnia and take it all over. You wouldn't have to do anything. But no one knows about these portals until they need to know. All right. It's really stupid and lazy. And they never explain how Kitiara got there. Only that her uncle Nelthus, which in just the previous novel, clearly stated that Kitiara had no family left. Okay, well, here's more family. And then, like 2 novels before that said that she did actually meet her relatives who wanted nothing to do with her. So it's a pretty good thing. This is a once removed relative that happens to be working with the dark forces. All right. So then we cut to the teleported ship where Caramon and Sturm are thrown overboard to drown after being beaten by pirates or slaves or both. It wasn't clear to me which. And Tasslehoff was taken off to be questioned as the Minotaurs had never seen a kender before. I'm going to say that one more time because it's an impossible notion to ever consider when a single species is known for its wanderlust, literally crawling all over the whole entire globe of Krynn. And yet, for some miraculous reason, Minotaurs have never encountered them before. Not one. Huh. It's a miracle. Anyway, and they thought that the kender was a wizard. Now, this is the most unbelievable part of this novel thus far, which is saying a lot. Because who on Krynn doesn't know what a kender is, one? And how can a species who has wizards, Minotaurs, not know that kender are prohibited from being wizards? Like it's called out. The Orders of High Sorcery refuse to allow any kender under any circumstances to know any form of magic, full stop, unless you read young adult novels, in which case it's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense at all. And even then, Raistlin straight up said, like, I'm not going to teach you shit, kid. Get out of here. It's just unbelievable. Like, how? And again, okay, so a random sailor wouldn't know that, but someone would. Anyone who has had any workings around wizards would 100% know that. All right. Anyway. Anyway, Taz is tortured for days upon days until the Nightmaster sends him one of the High Three, who gives him a charm person potion and belittles the others for thinking that he was in fact a wizard, which is like a saving grace moment. And what are they going to do with Taz? I have no idea. Why did they care about the spell component? I have no idea. They don't explain anything, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because this is still the first third. Caramon and Sturm nearly drown daily as they try to stay afloat for 5 days until a mysterious bird, ? Tosses them bread, which they then eat out of the ocean with their mouths. The salty ocean. As another creature circles them in the water, waiting for them to drown so it can eat them. This is another part which is unbelievable. I don't care who you are. You cannot float for 5 days on a stick and not drown in an open ocean where they actually encounter a massive storm. And yet, they can. Okay, so the Nightmaster is visited by mysterious people who tell them that Kitiara and the mage are en route to the Minotaur Isles, and they wanted the spell components, and that it was the wizard that wanted the spell components in the first place. This is also very strange. Who was it that told them about Kitiara coming to the Isle? At what point did Kitiara ever actually travel to the Isle? We're never told this, because as soon as they say some mysterious creature, which is clearly described as a draconian, is telling them that Kitiara, who the hell cares about some random female child warrior at this point, is coming to the Minotaur Isles, and her brother Raistlin is coming, which who cares about some random child wannabe wizard at this point? Like, the Nightmaster is definitely interested and invested in it. And then we cut to later in the novel, like in the last third of the novel, where Kitiara is already captured. So at what point, they just totally skip. They don't even need her on the cover of this, because she's not in this book long enough to even count as a character. She shows up in the beginning to be told that for some reason she has to travel to Minotaur Isles. She believes it. She finds some miraculous way of getting there. She gets caught. And then, like, that's it. That's the end of the story. It's ridiculous. Kitiara is known for her effectiveness in battle, her strategy, and her management of soldiers. Why not leverage that in some capacity? All right, anyway, I'm straying here. This is the great first third of the novel, and even with all my complaints, I'm actually really digging this. It poses more questions than it answers, but I would expect nothing less this early on. I really love the Oracle Chental Pirni. She's a great character who is mysterious and deadly, but also quirky and goofy. Now, I say that I loved it because it posed a bunch of questions, but it doesn't answer hardly any of these questions later, and so it does actually change my opinion of the novel. So Sturm and Caramon were picked up by an old fisherman who in turn sold them as slaves to Minotaurs. They were fed and given water, and Caramon was able to feed the other slaves. He met a Kyrie whose wings had been ripped off, which, I mean, doesn't that mean his arms are ripped off? Because their wings are attached to their arms? But it talked about him as if he was an angel with like wings coming out of his back, which is not the Kyrie that I know of. Anyway, I don't know what it is about me, but the older I get and the more compassion I find for other living beings. Even in fantasy, apparently. Because when I read this scene, I audibly moaned in sympathy for this prisoner. When it was like, and he had like these bloody stumps, I was like, oh no. And then I stopped myself going, it's not real, Adam. Why are you moaning in sympathy for this fictional character? It was a weird self-reflective moment. All right, so it and Caramon started briefly talking about each other daily, and eventually it told him that one of his kind would rescue Caramon, but only Caramon. And Caramon talked to Sturm, and Sturm agreed that he should, in fact, go. One day, when the guards weren't looking, a stone in the ceiling was pulled free, and Caramon was freed by another Kyrie. So Sturm was brutally beaten for it, but he truly didn't know how he was freed or who freed him, so he couldn't really say anything, and nor would he if he did know. It is Sturm we're talking about here. Kitiara was apparently taken captive as soon as she arrived, but how she arrived is still a mystery, as it happened off camera, as it were. And we're just told it was just told to Taz, and which is why we knew. And Taz is thoroughly evil, berating and belittling the guards sent to act as servants and his friends. He is freely telling the Minotaur priest everything he knows about Raistlin and the companions, ready and excited to kill them if they ever arrive in the Minotaur Isles. Raist, Tanis, and Flint fall out of the portal and find themselves locked in a room. Flint unlocks it, and they sneak through the structure only to be discovered by a half-ogre slave named Kirsig. She agrees to help them as she's infatuated with Flint, more because she's never seen a living dwarf than over attraction. They sneak out of the keep in Ogre Bond at night, and Kirsig has to kill a guard for them, and then she leaves with them into the sewer. And we get this really great Goonies-styled water slide, only it's sewage, not water, past undead creatures, and outside, Flint realizes his leg is broken. But they're met by a sailor named Nugetre, who agrees to take them across the Bloodsea to the Minotaur Isles for payment. And this is where I don't understand what happened. Apparently, Raistlin is wealthy, and he gives this captain bags, plural, of gems and coins. Where did he get these riches? If they're spells, they would wear off when they're midway across the Bloodsea or sooner, and he would be called out for it. Because remember, he only has he only knows first level spells at this point. He hasn't taken his test. But they aren't. They didn't disappear. They're not fictional. So where the hell does this guy who is destitute has to have his headmaster give him a scholarship so that he can attend mage school get this kind of money? No one knows. It's never explained once. He just happens to have bags of gems and gold at all times because. All right. There has never been a story in Dragonlance that has ever presented Raistlin as wealthy. Never. Not even when he's master of the universe beating Fistandanelis. He's still incredibly poor. So, Anyway, they board the ship, and the whole passage of the ship is done by some Bram Stoker journal writing of Tanis's. They naturally face the monsters and storms and terror of the Bloodsea, but ultimately make it to the other side, losing many of the deckhands in the process. The captain refuses to sail into Minotaur harbors, so he gives them a rowboat to get them to land themselves, but some of the shipmates, including his first mate, decide to go with them, to the captain's dismay. I'm glad this is the final prequel novel of the Innfellows, as it is getting exhausting reading about them traveling all over Ansalon when they never did in the Chronicles. The whole point of the Chronicles was that the Innfellows were like middle lower class workers. They all lived in Solace and didn't really travel anywhere, and that's why it was so wonderful that they stepped up to be these heroic adventurers that traveled around Ansalon. But if you read any of these Meeting Sextet or prequel novels, prelude novels, they already knew about the gods. They had already fought and defeated Draconians. They'd already went all over the Bloodsea. Like, they'd already done everything that they did the first time in the Chronicles. Doesn't make any sense. Where was I? Seeing creatures in places that they never saw until Chronicles, creating massive plot holes and contradictions. That being said, I'm still enjoying this novel. Caramon is taken to the Kyries' mountaintop and told of their kind. They adopt him as an honorary warrior, and he makes plans to save Sturm from prison. Tasslehoff suggests that Sturm be executed for allowing Caramon to escape and proposes the Pit of Doom, which is a Laval-styled arena. Taz cuts off half of Sturm's mustache to torture him, and Sturm is prepped, and when he finally begins the fight, he's clearly overmatched, and Sturm is weakened by his captivity as well. Near the end of the fight, Sturm is rescued by the Kyrie and Caramon. Taz travels with the Minotaurs to a ritual site where the Nightmaster will summon Sargonas and sacrifice Kitiara for Sargonas to inhabit. What would they have done if Kitiara didn't show up? I don't know. It's never addressed. There was never a backup sacrifice. So it's a really good thing that Kitiara showed up when she did. And it's also awfully convenient that they don't need the Jollop wart to do this because he presumably already has it. So why kill the herbalist at the very beginning of the of the novel for selling Jollop wart? Because he didn't need to do all that to reclaim the Jollop wart because he didn't get it. So I just don't understand why any of this, and we don't even actually know what the hell happened to the Jollop wart. Presumably, like Tasslehoff had it, but it never even brings it up again. It's just this weird jump off point. So why did they kill them for getting the Jollop wart and like destroy the ship and everything? There's no reason for it. There's no explanation for it. It just happened. So, let's see. They adopt him as a warrior, cut off his mustache. Okay, so meanwhile, the Kyrie find Flint, Tanis, Raistlin, and the sailors sneaking inland and take them to their larger group. One Kyrie watches a Bulette killing a minotaur and speaks to it in the animal language, giving it dominion over these lands for 1,000 years if it joins the Kyrie and their companions against the minotaurs. It eventually relents and agrees after being healed a bit and brings it with it a Horax and Hatorai, and the Kyrie enlists some rocks as well. Now we have a massive invasion force, but Raistlin snuck off at night and hasn't been seen. His brother believes he went to confront the Nightmaster himself, the thing that a first-level mage would definitely do. Raistlin sneaks into the Nightmaster's camp using an invisibility spell and announces himself, trading himself for Kitiara. When asked why he did it, he claims he wanted to see the spell as he was curious about magic. Kitiara is taken off by Tanis's Minotaur friend, or Tasslehoff's Minotaur friend before he turned evil, and Kit gives him an antidote to give to Tasslehoff, returning him to good. She got this antidote from her uncle, so it's a good thing he did that. As Taz turns good and the ritual begins, all hell breaks loose. The Kyrie and Beast attacks, distracting the Minotaurs, and Taz frees Raistlin, who eventually gets the upper hand on the Nightmaster when Caramon and Sturm come to rescue him, and they end up pushing the Nightmaster into the volcano, the location Sargonas was supposed to come out of. As the battle is winding down, the Minotaur watchers and ogres are seeing that Sargonas isn't in fact coming. They all turn and leave, then the volcano explodes and kills the remaining warriors. There were heavy losses on all sides, and the companions still don't know how Kit got to the island, and she never tells them. And this bugs me as a completionist, but I'm okay with it in the end, knowing no explanation given would have satisfied me anyway. So they all talk about what to do next, and Flint calls for them all to eat. Now, I enjoyed the back and forth banter we got from the companions, and I liked Evil Taz, though he was a bit inconsistent. I can't imagine Raistlin being able to go toe-to-toe with an accomplished wizard like the Nightmaster, as he hasn't even taken the test yet. But it never presented him as a powerful magi, so I suppose it was all just coincidence and happenstance rather than Raistlin's abilities. All in all, I enjoyed the novel, and it was a fun end to the meeting Sextet, putting a fine cap on the Heroes of the Lance until Dragons of Summerflame would be released later. If you're a fan of the Innfellows and want to read some hit-and-miss storytelling, I would suggest looking into this series. If you just want to experience a fun pre-War of the Lance adventure, this novel might be the one to satiate your hunger. All right, what did you guys have for today? Skull Cowboy, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in, man. You love the cover artwork. Yeah, I like it too. It was one of the best ones. And there's really only like 3 images of all the companions together. And most of them don't even have Kitiara in it. So it's a very good one. Good points in this one, but the constant canon discrepancies are almost intentionally offensive. The gods, Sargonas, Bloodsea, etc. Yeah, 100%. Evil Tasslehoff with a highlight. Hell yeah. Hey, OG Grognard, how you doing, man? Cithros, what up? Thanks for tuning in. Maybe the portal is one way. Maybe. We don't know because it It never even talks about it. Like, it just says it does it. And you're like, all right, well, cool. And then with Kitiara, it doesn't say it does anything. She just like, magically appears. The Valkyrie in this book remind you a lot of the Phaethons of Wanderlust. Yeah, the Kyrie were... I think it's funny you mentioned Valkyrie. It was probably an auto-correction. The Kyrie are an interesting species. The Phaethons have flame wings, and they're like elven. These guys are like birdmen, which is kind of cool. And I actually really like the species. Hey, Michael, thanks for tuning in, man. Let's see. The old bamboo trick. Handy for avoiding bees, goblins, dragons, and any evil, nefarious creatures lurking about. Yup. When I was my overall feeling about the meeting Sextet. You like aspects of it, but they failed to actually show the companions meeting each other for the most part. I think it completely destroys the Chronicles, timeline, everything. I think the only reason to read these books is to get more face time with some of these characters, not because it's supposed to have you be introduced to each other, because it doesn't do that. Not because it gives you a good setup to the Chronicles, because it doesn't do that. It's just nice to see the characters under someone else's writing. And for the most part, they all hit it. You know, they hit the characters like right where they should be. It's the world and the circumstances the characters are in that are completely foobar. Invisible Taz was great at the end. There's nothing more terrifying on Krynn than Invisible Kender. Yeah. Well, unless you know what invisibility allows you to do, then it's not so bad. The Minotaurs that's why they're all grumpy. Let's see. How old are the companions at this point? That's a really good question. I mean, it's before the Preludes. So this is... The meeting Sextet is like when they were really, really young. The Preludes are right before they leave for their 5-year hijinks. You know, that's like what they do on their 5-year sojourn. So, you know, it had to be early, like 16 to 18-ish for the human kids, like Raistlin and Caramon. Let's see. Most likely, Sean, does it seem that Raistlin has gone through the test yet? No, he has not. It explicitly states he has not taken his test. Because that doesn't happen until the Preludes, which is after this. Let's see. The novel referenced Raistlin always had a soft spot for Kender, but never said why. It's just the fact that there are downcast by most societies similar, but not as bad as Gully Dwarves. I don't know, man. Like, they're all over the place when it comes to characters caring about other species. If you read Flint the King, Flint should love Gully Dwarves, because in Flint the King, he turned the corner on his prejudice. But then everything after Flint the King, he hates them for having done to him what they did in Flint the King, which makes no sense because that was resolved. So you can't ever rely on sensibility of characters in these prequel or prelude or meeting Sextet novels, because they don't match up with the actual core characters that were written in Chronicles and Legends. Let's see. Some would look at Raistlin and see a frail frame and assume he wasn't a strong wizard. Well, this is before the test, so he's not beaten down yet. He's just he's a frail human, but he's not like destroyed by the test like we see him in Chronicles. The novel does read like an RPG playthrough to you. 100%, Sean. This is very much like a home session game of just people playing the Heroes of the Lance before the novels. You like the end when Raistlin explains to the Night Lord how he figured it all out. You almost hear the Night Lord saying to himself, well, damn, instead of sacrificing you, I need to hire you. I was expecting the Night Lord to rip his head off and say, I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you rascally kids. Like, it was a Scooby-Doo moment. The whole thing was Scooby-Doo. These novels are fun because we get to do many, we do not get many with the companions together during happier times. But none of these were happy times. Like, at all. It was all garbage in hell. Chris harnessed the power of Raistlin, yeah. Fun to read, but you're hoping to learn more about why the companions were together and how they met. All you got to do is read DL5 Dragons of Mystery or Leaves from the End of the Last Home. It gives you all the how they all met together. Some of it was touched on in these meeting Sextet novels, but not all of it. And most of it was just sort of an afterthought because they wanted to get on with some other grand story. But that information is out there, and so it's freely available. You can always just check out dragonlance.fandom.com, which is the Dragonlance wiki that's pretty much upheld by DL Nexus, and it explains everything. So, you can definitely get that information there as well. All right. Well, that's all I had. It was an interesting novel. I'll probably never read it again. And now that I have all of these novels, I might give them away as like prizes and stuff for that quiz game show I will eventually be bringing out. So look forward to that. All right, that is it for my review of The Companions by Tina Daniell. What did you think of the Companions sailing the Bloodsea? Could they realistically have survived invading the Minotaur Isles and stopping the Nightmaster? And finally, if Sargonis came and went, why didn't he stay? Feel free to email me info@dlsaga.com or leave a comment below. I'd like to take a moment and remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, ring the bell to get notified about upcoming videos, and click the like button. It all goes to help other Dragonlance fans learn about this channel and its content. This channel is all about celebrating the wonderful world of the Dragonlance Saga, and I hope you'll join in the celebration. Thank you for watching. This has been Adam with Dragonlance Saga, and until next time, Slanjavar.